That was more of a social engineering take. Some people fell for it. I happen to have one of my users who inadvertently gave his credit card information out, which I thought was kind of strange. But this is the first time we're really seeing this type of attack on Mac. And really, it's more malicious than the social engineering side. There is a social engineering aspect to this, but the fact that they're having you execute code on your side is even more dangerous. This is another example of an elevated endpoint risk for Mac heavy environments. Even if you're not Mac heavy, all you have to do is infiltrate one system, get a foothold within your organization, and they can branch out from there. Organizations with Mac focused workforces now face heightened risks of stealthy credential and data theft. Traditional antivirus may fall short against a threat that uses social engineering to bypass Mac OS Gatekeeper. And I think that's really the important thing here, is that even though Mac is a very well protected and fairly secure operating system, it's not bulletproof. The fact that this attack is convincing people to willingly bypass those controls means that it doesn't matter how secure, how bulletproof your OS is. If you're going to let somebody in the front door, they've got full run of the house at that point in time, and they can do anything they want. This also signifies the continued concern about insider threat via social engineering. Shamus uses the click fix technique, which means malware can be installed willingly by tricking users into pasting commands. Enterprises must adopt stronger user awareness training and limit terminal access privileges to combat this. Now, in my case, I have a hybrid environment where I have a few Macs, but it's mostly Windows. That inherently has limitations on how much control you have over the Macs. There's some, but it's not the same level of group policy that you can do across the board, or RMM solutions that can give you the level of access that you need. So this is an educational thing, right? You have to make sure that your users are aware, one, of the threat, two, of not to do what this threat requires you to do, and three, what to do when they see something like this. They need to be able to report it, and they need to escalate, and they need to know what those escalation points are. This also highlights credential and data protection gaps in general. With Shameless targeting Keychain, Apple Notes, browser-stored passwords, and crypto wallets, businesses must reinforce data encryption, deploy endpoint detection solutions tailored to Mac OS, and monitor for unusual exfiltration behavior. These are all things you should be doing now, but these are even doing these things. This type of thing could slip through. And finally, this signifies the supply chain and support ecosystem risks that are a recurring theme these days in cybersecurity. The campaign shows how spoofed tech support infrastructure can be weaponized via malvertising or phishing. Companies relying on third-party support tools like GitHub, and we have a story on that coming up as well. They need to vet sources carefully and whitelist trusted domains or repositories. This is an iterative process. There's no magic bullet solution here that's going to solve everything, but awareness is the first thing, education is the next, and prevention follows. Next up is a story from the New York Times. When government efficiency means risky uploads, meet Doge. It looks like America's most sacred personal numbers just went for a joyride into the cloud, and yes, that includes yours too. A whistleblower complaint filed by the Social Security Administration Chief Data Officer Charles Borges alleges that the Department of Government Efficiency uploaded a complete copy of the Social Security Administration's database containing personal data on over 300 million Americans to an insecure cloud server with zero proper security protocols or oversight. Although there's no confirmed breach yet, experts warn this move poses a catastrophic risk, potentially enabling identity theft, fraudulent benefit claims, and could even force reissuing Social Security numbers en masse. Boy, would that be a nightmare. Social Security Administration officials maintain that existing systems remain secure and claim there's been no known compromise. All that means is they haven't found it yet. The whistleblower emphasizes DOGE staff bypassed legal controls, ignored judicial orders, and completely sidestepped oversight, prompting legal and legislative reviews by bodies including the Office of Special Counsel and congressional committees. That seems like a playbook for the current administration, where they basically do whatever they want and wait for someone to stop them. The Supreme Court cleared DOGE to access the Social Security data amid litigation earlier this year. Another government agency in, cahoots here. Soon after the insecure upload reportedly occurred, a move that internal risk assessments called, quote, catastrophic. And it wasn't done quietly. The Social Security Administration's own chief information officer signed off on it, so they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were allowing when this happened, and they still let it happen. In short, the Trump administration's DOGE team and key administration insiders enabled the insecure cloud hosting of the nation's most sensitive data. Whether it's benign or malignant intent, the implications are dire. And we're just now starting to unpack the fallout. Now, this is a scab that's been torn off with the latest news of the breach being confirmed. It was suspected, it was alleged, there were unconfirmed reports when it was going on, and not a single soul in the administration seemed even slightly interested in looking into it. This kind of gives us some idea of what government data governance crisis we're in right now. And it serves as a cautionary tale. Enterprises with sensitive data, especially regulated industries like healthcare and finance, should view this as a stark reminder. Cloud migrations without strict governance, oversight, and compliance checks invite disaster. Private sector firms must treat data handling with more rigor or risk losing trust and triggering legal firestorms. If a company did this, if for instance, one of the credit bureaus had this happen, the federal government would be all over. They'd be shut down by now at this point. They'd be paying hefty fines. There's no accountability to this at this point in time, and I think that's largely what the problem is. There's also keys into vendor and cloud oversight issues. Public and private entities alike must continuously audit and monitor vendor and internal access. There was no vetting of any of these people from DOGE. There was no security clearances issued. There was no oversight. There was no supervising. There was presumably no logging of any of this stuff. I mean, this was literally letting a hacker walk in your front door and steal everything you had on your hard drive. And still, there's been no action by the federal government about this. In this case here, the insider threat was deliberate. It was an insider threat by a human link. This isn't just about tech. It's about people in this case here. The Social Security Administration's CIO approval of the insecure transfer underscores the need for robust role-based access, separation of duties, and alerting when sensitive operations occur. No one person should have the keys to the kingdom. There needs to be checks and balances so that this type of abuse, and yes, that could be a statement towards this entire administration, that this type of abuse of power does not go unchecked. For enterprise architecture teams and HR, this means tandem alignments between identity and security governance. This was, can't even, give the benefit of the doubt and say that they were asleep at the wheel here. They deliberately drove this vehicle off the road and over a cliff, and no one's being held accountable for it at this point in time. And as long as there's no accountability, you can't possibly expect anyone to learn a lesson from here for things to improve. you have to acknowledge you have a problem first. And the federal government seems to even have a problem with that at this point. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. I would highly recommend everyone out there, and I'm not a financial advisor, but just for the sake of security, I would highly recommend everyone out there go to the 3 credit bureau monitoring bureaus and put a credit hold on your credit reports there. So at least you're notified if someone tries to do identity theft and get into your bank accounts. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, I want to take a moment to invite our listening and viewing audience, if you don't do so already, to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio and video versions of this podcast listed on Insights into Things. You can find audio-only versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Technology. We'd also love to hear from you. Give us a call. Leave a voicemail for us on our number at 856-403-8788. That's 856-403-8788. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us how we're doing. Give us your feedback, your input, and your take on these stories. And if you'd like to get on the air, we can certainly reserve your comments for a future segment that we can address them in. If you're shy and you don't want to call, you can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com or check out our main website at www.insightsintothings.com. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of your favorite gaming podcast finishing with a play?
Oh, no!
Well, check out No Credits Rolled, where we play the games but rarely finish them. How's it going, folks? I'm Sam Whalen, your friendly host at No Credits Rolled, the ultimate gaming podcast, where we dish out the latest scoops and reviews on all your beloved video games.
Hey, listen!
Not only that, but we spice things up with some guest interviews and even give you, yes, you, a chance to have your say. Tune in every other week for a fresh dose of No Credits Rolled, available on all major podcast platforms, and hit us up on social media at No Credits Rolled. So why wait? Let's dive into the gaming world together, where finishing games is optional, but the fun is guaranteed.
Our next article comes to us from Cyberscoop. Cyberscoop. Bureaucracy gets a makeover. Now hiring hackers, not historians. Here's what just dropped in the world of federal cyber hiring. Bureaucracies have never sounded this edgy. On August 21st, 2025, the Cybersecurity Hiring Modernization Act was introduced by Representatives Nancy Mace, Republican of South Carolina, and Shontel Brown, Democrat from Ohio. The bill aims to shift federal cybersecurity hiring from traditional degree requirements to a skills-based model. The lawmakers argued this change is vital to expand the applicant pool and tap into skilled talent that doesn't have a 4-year diploma. Crucial at a time when cyber threats against the government are intensifying, and given our last story, when the federal government is abdicating all responsibility for cybersecurity. That was my ad-libbing there, by the way. Under the proposal, the Office of Personnel Management would publish annually any changes to education-related job qualifications and aggregate data on the educational backgrounds of newly hired federal cyber professionals. Federal agencies could still require educational credentials, but only if the requirement is legally necessary in the location where the job will be performed, and the education directly correlates to job competencies. And so this is a case. Now, I'm the first person to tell you that if you go out and spend money on a degree, it's not going to guarantee you know anything about the subject or you're going to get a good job. You're buying a piece of paper, but you need to benefit from the learning experience associated with that piece of paper. That being said, I'm all in favor of trade schools and certifications and any other technical competency that you can acquire that doesn't require a 4-year degree. You can have a perfectly successful and highly innovative job in IT and cybersecurity without ever having a degree. So I don't want to make this sound like this is the government lowering standards so that other people can come in. The one thing that this will do is diversify the talent pipelines. For enterprise IT and cybersecurity teams working on federal government agency payrolls or projects, the shift signals a broader opportunity to source talent from boots-on-the-ground skilled professionals, boot camp grads, certificate holders, and self-taught experts rather than only degrees. In hiring for IT positions at my company, I always value experience over education. You can go to school for 8 years and not learn a thing, but you can be on the front lines of an IT organization or just a commercial entity in their IT department and gain far more knowledge and skill over the course of 3 or 4 years doing that than going to a 4-year college. Everyone knows there's prerequisites at college, so you're not always getting information that's necessarily pertinent to what you need, but there's a purpose behind that, and I don't want to discount that. This may also result in a realigning of training and upskilling strategies, not just for the federal government, but for commercial organizations as well. Organizations supporting government contractors may need to pivot from traditional credential-based vetting to competency-based assessments and skills validation, such as challenge tests and hands-on evaluations. This will also have an impact on vendor qualifications and compliance. The industry that I'm in, we're under very strict federal regulation with CMMC 2.0, and we have to maintain those levels. So having people come in that don't necessarily meet measurable educational requirements could complicate that. Tech vendors selling to agencies, this bill could lower entry barriers, forcing companies to highlight employee capabilities over resume pedigrees and proposals, reframing how teams are onboarded and qualifying. And I think it's a good thing if it's done properly. The other thing this is going to do is put stress on your internal HR and your talent strategy people. Enterprises that support government clients need to mirror this skills-first ethos. HR systems must evolve to flag proven technological competencies, certifications, and project-based experiences, not just educational credentials, when building federal targeted project teams. So I'm on board with more talent coming in, talent that has the skill but not necessarily a degree. But we can't use this as an excuse to allow script kiddies into the Social Security Administration, stealing all the citizens' data and uploading it to an insecure site. When these two stories hit in the same relative time frame, it almost sounds like the second one is trying to justify the first. And that scares me more than anything. So hopefully that's not what we're looking at here. Next up, from Bleeping Computer, who knew pixels could talk? Here's something surreal. An AI trick so slick, it hides malicious commands and images, and those same images, once resized by AI, turn into data-stealing weapons. If that lead-in doesn't terrify you, I don't know what does. Researchers have unveiled a new form of AI attack where prompts intended to steal user data, like credentials, are stealthily embedded in high-resolution images. These prompts remain visible to human eyes, but these prompts remain invisible to human eyes, but appear once the image is downsized by AI systems, triggering unauthorized behavior in large language models or multimodal systems. The technique exploits... didn't change there. That was silly. The technique exploits how AI services routinely resize images before processing, downscaling, and that can reveal hidden instructions via manipulated pixel brightness. When processed, the AI unwittingly executes the embedded prompts. A tool dubbed Anamorpher was developed by researchers to craft such images specifically tuned to various downscaling algorithms and target systems like Google's Gemini CLI, Vertex AI Studios, and others. The attack highlights vulnerabilities in indirect prompt injection, where AI treats untrusted content as legitimate instructions. This has been flagged as a serious risk by security frameworks like OWASP. Think your image gallery is safe? Not so fast. Your AI's resizing routines might be turning hidden ink into full-blown hacks. So the new security risk for AI-powered applications, just what we needed because we didn't have enough security concerns about AI already. Enterprises deploying generative AI or multimodal models must recognize that even benign-looking images can carry hidden instructions. This widens the attack surface, especially in the models that process images for tasks like document handling or user support. I know my use, I tend to send a lot of documents or PDFs into my AI models, and that certainly paints a target on my back there. So this will seriously make me reconsider how I'm processing these things. This demonstrates a critical need for endpoint sanitation pipelines. Security teams must validate or sanitize images before feeding them into AI pipelines. This might include running pre-processing filters, scrubbing or carefully inspecting downscaled versions, or enforcing strict content safety protocols. All of this adds overhead to an already burdened system, basically, which is not going to make life easy for anybody. Implications for model integrity and compliance are also attached to this. If AI generates responses or worse, takes actions based on maliciously injected prompts, enterprises may face compliance risks, data leakage, or regulatory penalties, particularly in regulated sectors like finance or healthcare. So this is another one of these things where the bad guys are always more creative than the guys that are defending, and we're always playing catch up here. This highlights a probably rising trend in how AI is being used, which, usage patterns can be changed to mitigate this. But again, it's another one of these cat and mouse examples here where we think you're safe until you're not safe. So again, another one that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We'll update you as we see more on this. As far as I know, there haven't been any exploits in the wild yet. But if there are, we'll report on it. Next up is an article from Bleeping Computer again. When Git misreads, your system pays. Cloning that Git repo may feel safe, but it just got a lot sketchier. CISA has added a critical Git vulnerability to its known CISA has added a critical Git vulnerability to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, warning that attackers are actively exploiting it. The agency has set a patch deadline for federal agencies of September 15th of 2025. The flaw originates from Git's mishandling of a carriage return character, the /r, in configuration files. A mismatch between how Git writes versus reads these characters can cause incorrect submodule paths, leading to behavior where attackers embed malicious submodules that can trigger arbitrary code execution when cloned. Patched versions of Git were released in July of 2025, covering versions 2.43.7 through 2.50.1. These should eliminate the vulnerability. For organizations unable to update immediately, mitigation steps include avoiding recursive submodule clones from